What can I say about him? The temple there was built by him. When it started, it was just bare land, and to build something, he was staying just under the sky without roof. So he is very, very deep bhakta yogi person who can share with you his all spiritual realizations and tell about this ashram. Hope you remember that. Hope you remember that this is Zooms, which is called Treasures of the Devotees, and it's mean like don't be shy to see these treasures, to ask questions about experience, about service, about practice.
Jai Srila Bhakti Sant Hrishikesh Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Дандаваты Бхактавринды, Харе Кришна.
Дандават, Махарадж.
Рады всех видеть. Мы вот тут с Анандамоем.
Really happy to see everyone. We're here with Anandamoy Prabhu in our journey to Agoy. And you caught us on the way, and we managed to join this Zoom program. So yes, we can get some association.
Вот, так что мы можем пообщаться.
So yes,
так, ну начнем, наверное, сейчас
we can
мантру прочитаем.
have this conversation.
Джава Вишнупад Шрила Бхакти Бимала Вадут Махараш ки джай, Джава Вишнупад Шрила Бхакти Субхи Госвами Махараш ки джай, Джава Вишнупад Шрила Бхакти Нирмала Ачарья Махараш ки джай, Джава Вишнупад Шрила Бхакти Раджнан Мадхусуду Махараш ки джай, Джава Вишнупад Парамахамса Паривраджика Ачарья Варя Штота Рашта Шишимат Бхакти Сундар Говинда Дев Госвами Махараш ки джай, Джава Парамахамса Паривраджика Ачарья Варя Штота Рашта Шишимат Бхакти Ракшакштар Госвами Махараш ки джай. Бхагаван Шива Бхакти Сидам Сарасвати Такур Прабхупада ки джай, Джава Вишну. Шива Гаур Кишор Дас Бабаджи Махараш ки джай, Джава Вишну. Шива Сачитананда Бхактинот Такур ки джай, Джава Вишну. Шива Джаганатха Дас Бабаджи Махараш ки джай, Ширупанов Гуру Варга ки джай, Намачарья Шива Харидас Такур ки джай, Анант Вайшнава Вринда ки джай. Шичитания Сарасват Мадхачарья Вринда ки джай. Джай Шипат Джараман Прабhu ки джай, Джай Шипат Анандамой Прабhu ки джай. Джай Виштупат Вишваренем Шива Чебухтидан с вами Шива Прабхупад ки джай. Шигуру Парампа джай. Джай Суприкара Шигуру Гуранга Ганхарва Гиридхари Сундари ки джай, Джай Шиши Рада Кришна ки джай, Шиши Гирираж Гавардхан ки джай. Шинитянанда Прабhu ки джай, Шинри Симпадев Прабhu. Джай Шимати Туси Махарани Вринда Деви ки джай, Бхакти Вринда ки джай, Нитай Гору Премананде Хари, Джай Бхакти по всему миру ки джай, Харе Кришна.
Дандаваты Махарадж, рады вас видеть. Анандамой Прабhu, Дандаваты тоже очень всегда рады.
We are very happy to see you, Maharaj, and Anandamoy Prabhu as well.
В гостях у отца Вишакхи.
I'm also visiting the Shakras DD's father in Portugal. You all know him, and he really wanted to meet Hrishikesh Maharaj and sending his dandavats. Whose father? The Shakra DD. Our sister, our Brahmacharini senior. Very pleased to meet her father, Hare Krishna. Our dandavats, obeisances. You look
Maharaj said that you look
like
a priest.
Like a priest, like a father.
Just the profile.
Prabhu говорит, что это только профайл, это только видимость.
Харе Кришна.
Махарадж, мы рады услышим все, что у вас на сердце,
Maharaj,
чем вы рады
we
поделиться
are
сегодня.
happy to hear everything what you have in
И
your
думаю,
heart
люди
that you're
будут,
willing
когда
to
в
share with
гости
us.
преданные будут задавать свои
And
вопросы, не
I
смущайтесь.
believe that
Харе
devotees
Кришна. Ну,
are gonna
что...
ask some questions. Well,
Поделиться, да, поделиться это всегда
well,
очень
what I
важно.
can share, it's really important.
В нашем пути самое главное это, конечно, общение.
On our way,
Много
of
чего
course,
делаем в этом
association
материальном мире, не
is
можем
the
делать.
most
Мы
important. We do
можем
many things, can do many things.
наслаждаться различными категориями этого материального мира.
We can
Можем, в конце
enjoy
концов,
different things of this
заинтересоваться
material
в
world.
подлинной духовной жизни.
We can get interested
Можем
in one
заинтересоваться
at some
религией.
point with
И
real
большинство
spiritual
людей в
life,
этом мире, на
with
самом
real
деле,
religion. And the
идут
majority of the
по
people of this
пути
world,
какую-то
they take
отрезок
the
своей
path
жизни, пытаясь, на самом деле, даже не понимая,
in
что
their
зачем,
life,
почему
trying
мы живем на уровне
something but
удовлетворения
not
своих
really
чувств, своего
understanding
ума. И
what's
так
going
бесконечное
on.
количество
They run by
времени и
their
жизни транслируют
instincts,
по
by
разным
their
мирам, разным
mind,
вселенным,
and they
пытаясь
spend most of
удовлетворить
the
эти
time, you know, traveling in
наши
different universes, in
материальные
different
чувства в различных
forms,
категориях.
trying to satisfy
Но
their material
мы всегда
desires.
говорим, что
But
есть некая удача,
we always
есть
say
некая
that
духовная удача, когда
the
нам,
special kind of
существам, по какой-то
luck,
причине,
spiritual luck,
Гурудев, наш Шрила Бхакти Сундар Гурудев
when
Госвами
we
Махарадж,
are
он говорил, что на самом деле
living
причина есть,
beings.
почему каким-то душам
Our Gurudev, Srila
в
Govinda
их
Maharaj,
жизни
used to say that
открылось такое счастье встречи с духовной
very rare
реальностью,
possibility and very sacred
реальностью на самом деле очень глубокой.
to be introduced to the spiritual reality,
Гурудеву очень
to
часто
the depth of spiritual
преданные задавали
reality.
вопрос
Our
вообще,
Gurudev
потому что
often was
может
asked
возникнуть
by
такая некая
devotees
несопоставимость между тем, кто мы есть на самом
because
деле, и
some people can feel
просто
contradicted.
не все из нас могут глубоко задуматься над этими вещами вообще,
Who we
какой
are,
природой мы обладаем.
not everyone is willing to think about those
Если
things,
мы
who
глубоко
really
начнем
are.
задумываться, размышлять над этими вещами, мы поймем,
And
что
if we
на
really
самом деле
go
это
deeper
не
into this
самое
thought,
позитивное вообще, то, что
into
мы
this
можем
line
узнать
of
о самих
thought,
себе. Мне тут недавно
we don't come to
один
the
преданный
positive
написал,
conclusion.
служил здесь в
We don't
Абхазии,
learn
там,
good things about ourselves.
Авадут Махарадж
One
его попросил в
devotee
другое место
wrote
переехать,
me,
там, помочь
he
какие-то
was
вещи.
in
Я ему просто
Abkhazia,
написал,
then
спросил,
Avadut
как дела,
Maharaj asked him
как что.
to move,
Он тоже
relocate,
стихами,
where
и
else?
говорит,
And
написал мне, говорит, я, говорит,
he
начал
kind of
регулярно
near the
посещать
temple,
духовные программы,
and
и
he
столько я
started
узнаю о
to
самом
go
себе,
to
что
the
мне
temple
страшно
regularly.
становится.
And he
И
said,
на самом деле
I've
оно
learned
так и
so
есть,
much about him.
если
I'm
мы
so
начнем
scared to learn
глубоко
all
копать,
that. And that's
причем
true.
это
You
не
know,
просто
once we
в нашей
start digging,
традиции какой-то, а вообще вот все подвижники в различных духовных
and it's
течениях,
not only in
когда
our
начинают
tradition,
вообще
in
разбирать
every
вообще,
real,
кто из себя
authentic
этот мир
spiritual
представляет, что мы
path
представляем.
of a
На
saint,
самом деле
when we start to
первое
understand
впечатление
what this
такое,
world is about, who we
оно
really
на самом
are,
деле очень
the first impression
такое обескураживающее на самом деле.
is
И
actually, you know, quite astonishing.
оно связано с тем, что мы познаем, понимаем,
This
что мы на
understanding,
самом деле живем такой
it's
жизнью неких
because
эксплуататоров,
we
неких
understand that
агрессоров
we
по
live
отношению
lives
ко
of
всему, что нас окружает.
exploiters,
Мы там, не
aggressors
задумываясь, там едим все
towards
подряд,
everything
не
what
задумываясь, куда мы бежим,
surrounds
куда-то
us.
ходим.
We don't
Вот,
think
не
where we
задумываемся,
run,
что у нас под ногами.
what we do.
То есть мы совершаем
We don't
огромное
think
количество
about
действий, и все эти действия
what
не
we're
связаны
stepping on.
на
So
самом деле
all
с практическим
multiple
убийством других
actions,
живых существ.
we don't
То есть вся
realize
наша
that
деятельность,
we
она строится
kill
таким, что
our,
какие-то живые существа ради
you
нашего
know,
наслаждения,
living
они
beings.
практически
We
приносятся в жертву
exploit
постоянно.
that tendency
И
is a foundation of our
на самом
life.
деле мы мало об этом задумываемся, но так оно и есть. И
We don't think about that much.
интересно то, что все это может находиться в двух
And
категориях.
interesting fact
С одной
is
стороны, мы можем
that
становиться
we can
должниками всех этих
separate it in two
так сказать,
categories.
живых существ, которые принесены по нашему желанию в жертву. Можем, наоборот, с помощью этой жертвы выйти из обусловленности.
We can sacrifice our beings and pay for that, or we can leave, actually, be freed from our misconceptions. So why do we live? Gurudev used to really emphasize that spiritual life is very simple. It depends where do we direct our attention to. If our focus is directed to satisfying the Lord, we're trying to worship, we're trying to give to Lord and His associates, Vaishnavas, those who are trying to practice spiritual life, then all our actions that justified and all the living beings that die as a result of our lives, of our actions, they also achieve eternal good because their sacrifice wasn't pointless. But if we just exploit the world for our self-seeking interests, for our lust, for satisfying our own desires, then we are indebted to those living beings. And from one hand is, some could feel some fear, some say, oh, it's okay. Yes, the fact is that's how everything built. That's the foundation. But if we are in the first category and trying to satisfy the Lord and His devotees, then this world automatically transformed. Not even transformed. It becomes what it is. It becomes reality. Some say, in philosophy Mayavada, they say it's an illusion. So it all depends on our attitude, correct or incorrect, and multiple, countless illusions about this world, and then multiple opportunities to serve. Then we often say the most important thing is in the life is to realize where we are. And it may happen that what you do is the best case scenario for you. If we realize that regardless where we are, what we do, we're still trying to satisfy the Lord, satisfy His devotees, serve, good, bad, somehow. Yes. Maybe we're qualified, maybe we're not in some service. But if we manage to live in this realm with this mood, then our entire life will become whole and meaningful. And regardless of all the difficulties and obstacles, inner and outer, we will feel joy, eternal joy. Because everything may happen. Any tradition, Ukrainians understand. They had life, and then next day they have bombs. And we heard something here as well. Some drone was shot. So we have only one choice, holy name that we can chant repeatedly and glorify holy names of God, His devotees, and practice Lila deeply, study Lila, and direct our mind there. Our mind could be in passion, it could be in ignorance, but eventually we need to direct it to transcendental world through studying scriptures, through association with saints, chanting holy names. And when we are doing that, everything what's going on in this world also becomes transcendental. We see the hand of God behind everything. We not really get in touch with this world. We start really care about ourselves. We tend to try to protect ourselves, build the world around us, secure this body. And when we're doing this, we are getting deeper into material world, into Maya. But instead of doing that, we need to direct our consciousness into divinity. And Bhagavad Gita begins with that. What living being thinks at the moment of death. The fact is, all our life, entire life, is directed to this moment of time, because that will signify our next life. And if the living being is focused on divinity at the moment of birth, it will not take next birth. It will be freed. Therefore, it's so important to learn to be determined in achieving God conscious and direct our mind to the spiritual reality instead of material one. We are lucky to meet the special elevated personalities that bring to the fallen souls of this world such a high conception of Krishna consciousness, like Hrishikesh Maharaj. The truth is, for the realized soul, it's natural. When you're not in the samsara and you get in touch with spiritual reality, then from life to life, you will keep searching, you will keep trying to achieve that connection. Go to holy places, worship. So many things you already done to be where you are. But in Sejava Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions about the inner aspect of our reality, and there's also karma, and these two parallel tendencies. Our spiritual karma, our mundane karma, it forces us to take birth into inauspicious environment, but our spiritual karma helps us to remember about God and to continue this search regardless of circumstances, regardless of environment. That's what I wanted to share for the starters. Maybe there's some questions. In fact, we speak about same things most of the time. But many practitioners, if they really practice spiritual life, some practical questions may arise. We're trying to practice, we're trying to communicate with people. And sometimes we have this impression that everyone got to learn about it. Everyone already knows about this. But when we meet the world, outside world, sometimes very simple questions come. And it's natural, you know, when kids just enter the school for the first time, the questions are very simple, and that's totally fine. Arjuna Krishna raising his hand.
Dandavad Maharaj, очень рада видеть.
Dandavad Maharaj, very happy to see you. I have a question. Today is eclipse, sun eclipse. And before that event, there's so much hype about that in social media. And time by time, this happens. Oh, this big astrological event is about to come. I'm curious. What's our attitude? Is it important for us? Do we pay attention to those things? Or I've heard about one of the brahmacharis, we should dismiss all that. Good question. And yes, it is connected with our life, practical. Moon eclipses, sun eclipses, for material life, it's very inauspicious. They influence consciousness in a negative way. People get anxious, fearful, aggressive. So, but the fact is, it's inauspicious for material life. But for spiritual life, it's actually counter, so it's very auspicious. It really turns on our attention, our focus, because the fact is, when everything is fine, we are so relaxed. But when something's going on, we get focused, we get concentrated. So these kind of days, any kind of inauspicious astrological days, they are very auspicious for successful spiritual practice. And we remember about Kurukshetra, the fight of Bhagavad Gita took place there. And at this place, still, constantly, worships and ritual is taking place, especially on eclipses days. And Srila Maharaj says that they used to live around Kurukshetra, and it was normally empty, but on days of eclipse, it would be crowded. Millions of people would come there to perform their spiritual practice, their rituals. And at the time of Krishna, there were also eclipses, and people used to gather at Kurukshetra and perform austerities, spiritual practices. Therefore, it's very auspicious for spiritual life. And on these days, we're trying to dedicate even more time, even more energy. All the spiritual actions will be remunerated even more. More chanting, more service, more focus on spirituality. So astrology as a science is actually divine, but it's degraded to the material level, especially in Christian tradition. It is called demonic. Because essentially, like, it teaches how to get something without consequences. But you know, some auspicious days are calculated for certain things, but sadly, we're not professionals in this area. And, you know, to really study it and understand it, you need to dedicate your entire life to this science. So from our point of view and from our teacher's view, we have our spiritual calendar and some astrological events mentioned there. For example, Ekadashi, and then appearance days of different avatars and saints. And we are very carefully celebrate these days. You know, the Kartika month, holy month of Kartika is approaching. But basically, again, any material activities, they're not auspicious on these days, like any time else, in the same way. But when we perform spiritual activities, we really can elevate, and it doesn't mean that, you know, our ego grows, but instead our humility grows. Sometimes I think, or I figured this all out, I got this, I'm so enlightened. This is the pride. But understanding our own insignificance, that's the real sign that perhaps we are on the right track. Therefore, eclipse, as inauspicious as it is very auspicious for spiritual practice. We can focus on that. Eat less, enjoy less, no intoxications, because we can invite even more shadow on our consciousness. All the sinful activities, they contradict our spiritual efforts. So we can say that this kind of days help us to be disciplined. If we will be ran by our mind and feelings, everything will just get worse. No, it's a short answer. But we can ask, you know, we have few professionals in our mission in that field. I hope I answered the question, Bhakti Lata. Dandavats Maharaj and all devotees. I have a question. Not long ago, we spoke about devotees, about what the prayer is, and I've heard about the statement that chanting of the holy name and the prayer is the same. But I understand that prayer is like dialogue with God, and it can't be the same as chanting holy names. I wanted to clarify that, please. Well, the question this question for the people that are practicing this tradition is very important, because the core of our practice is kirtan and chanting of holy names. Gurudev used to say that prayer and chanting of holy names is a communication with the Lord, but we all different. So this communication and relationships with God will be unique for every living being. It's a very exclusive moment. When our teachers get asked about what mood we need to chant holy names in, our teachers used to answer that we need to just start this process of communication, and no need to focus on anything, ask anything, just try to listen. Transcendental reality, transcendental sound, and reject all the desires of the mind, because all the activities of this world, it begins from the outside in material activities. So we need to sacrifice our material mind. We need to reject basically thinking, but when we begin, it's extremely hard. As Christians say, thinking is not doing. Even on a material level, if one can meditate, they can achieve a lot in business, money, because they have control over the mind. But if you first come to the 0 point and with humility start listen to the holy name and let this communication begin, then it will be perfect start. If we can nurture our mind first, and then on the next stages our consciousness can elevate to the transcendental image. In the same way, in a spiritual reality, there's countless possibilities of the service. So what we are searching for is communication with that reality through the Guru, through the Lord's associates, but it's very individual. Some things could be the same, but the Lord has individual plan for saving every living being, every soul. Srila Maharaj, he commented Shikshastakam, and it's quite extraordinary. He describes there the stages of chanting holy name and how it affects the consciousness. And the first stage is cleaning up the mind. When we repeat the mantra, our consciousness, our mind is getting cleaned from these short-term desires. We can act in 3 planes of existence. First one is exploitation. The second one is the 0, when there's nothing, emptiness, nirvana. And third one is service, plane of service and dedication. So first, we need to clear up everything what takes us down in this world. Then we need to become free from three types of suffering of this world that we're causing to ourselves, to others, and the higher powers. We need to come to this point, the freedom from suffering, as Hrishikesh Maharaj says. But it's not easily and quickly achievable. Maybe not even one life is enough. Once we cross this stage, then we understand who we are really, who the Lord is really, what's the nature of our relationships with Him. And these relationships will continue to progress, to evolve. In the same way, like we meet someone, then we get friends, closer, more intimate. In the same way, these unique relationships that we have with the Lord require some time. And at every stage, Mahamantra or holy names of the Lord will have very different, unique meaning. So different stages, different personalities, different realities. At this particular moment of time, the way we communicate with the Lord, that's our reality. When we don't remember Him, when we neglect Him, when we just focus on our own problems, we forgot Him. But He is mercifully helps us to remember about Him. He can reveal Himself through some things, other people, some other signs. But those who regularly attend temple programs and worship deities is capable of saying so much more. First comes sadhana, and after that, sadhana. It's impossible to progress. It's the only way for us, conditioned souls, is to worship Archa Vigraha. Only some of us are on the level of Rupa Nuga Bhakti.
Харе Кришна. Но это такой, на самом деле, вопрос вечности.
This question, honestly, is eternal. One of the questions that we're going to keep asking. It's the eternal search for the connection, dialogue with the Lord, with His endless, countless extensions. He has inner energy, outer energy, and all of it countless, eternal, and all of them personal. So we have to understand our position. We are Tatastha Shakti, which is border energy, and quality of this energy that it can be affected by spiritual and both and material energy. But Lord and His associates, they never get influenced by outer energy. But our main relationships are with inner personal energy and reality. And everything, all of it, is getting revealed through prayer and chanting of holy name.
Спасибо, Махарадж. У нас еще есть один вопрос в чате. Я сейчас его
We have one more question in chat. Thank you, Maharaj. I will read it now. Dandavat.
Скажите, пожалуйста, как правильно
Question from Govindaland.
Время праздников Джанмаштами и Радхаштами.
Please explain how we need to perform pushpa correctly. We were told in Lakta that we need to offer flower petals, not entering the altar space. Technically, I'm not a specialist in puja. Maybe Ananda Moy can answer this question. He is more qualified. I can tell you how we do it on Kartika, Janmashtami, Radhashtami, our big festivals, when we celebrate appearance days of Lord's avatars and deities. On Kartika, we burn candles, first one, then we do achaman first, and then offer this candle. In the same way with flowers, first achaman, purification, and then we offer petals, then full dandavat. And ladies do their version of obeisances. And the same thing is that it heartfelt, honor and appreciation that we're trying to express for the Lord, for the deities. And during the entire Kartika, we do this. In some temples, it's not every day, but in our temple, it's every day.
Джанмаштами предлагаем 108 тиреем. Ну, это та же самая такая. Пуджари предлагается, так, они у нас предлагается. Мне там старшие...
Ananda Boy is saying that it's different, they don't really offer candles in Lakta.
На карту не предлагаются свечки?
Ну, есть определенный день какой-то там в календаре, мы это предлагаем один раз.
Only certain day they do offer candles. So the truth is, every temple has their own standard according to their deities. But this standard still should be follow the scriptures, the recommendations. In some temples, the standard is higher and it demands responsibility. If we begin doing something on certain standard, we should keep it up. So it's supposed to be constant. For example, if we started offering sweet rice to the Lord every day, we should continue on, because this shift is taking place on transcendental level. Every deity is the Lord in certain place and time and mood. So preferably to offer same things every day in the same way. So the worship follows that. But it's different structure in Lakta and Abkhazia. But we need to always consult with our guru and act accordingly. But there's no need to copy. Just because somewhere else is different. First principle, we need to think about if we can support, if we can be consistent in this worship. If yes, we can proceed. And we need our seniors' blessing and inner inspiration to do so.
Так, вот,
Спасибо, Махарадж,
да, вот у нас
за ответ.
Thank you, Maharaj.
У Наси в чате. Она с Шри-Говинда Дхам, Австралия. Пишет нам: Дандават пранам, Махарадж, и дорогие преданные.
Question from Australian Dham.
Могу ли я спросить,
Dandavat Maharaj.
чтобы вы
Can I please
рассказали
ask
про конфиденциальность, то есть как
you to tell us about confidentiality?
говорить с разными преданными, с
What
разных типов
we need to
ассоциаций, то
discuss
есть
with
с кем о чем говорить.
different devotees of different levels of association.
Общий принцип нашего общения.
The general principle is of our communication, not only with devotees, but with all the living beings, comes to the point of first, we need to be inspired for service. And the second principle is that we need to inspire them for service. These are main points. If we realize that what we're going to say is not going to inspire others, then we shouldn't say that. That's about confidentiality. But if we feel that what we're going to say is going to inspire others for spiritual activity, for spiritual life, then we need to share that. But we don't have to do it from the level of the mind and emotions, but rather on the level of spiritual current, and feel that what we're saying is somehow sanctioned by the Lord. We have some ethics that we follow for sure, but along with that, it should be intact with our inner inspiration. We need to understand that spiritual life, spiritual path, spiritual practice have eternal living nature, and it's always according to the moment. So at every moment we need to act, we need to perform activities that are harmonious. But we can't do it all the time because we are contaminated. And even real saints, they say that they're not qualified to perform real service. But they still perform service because there's need for that. But what we can say about us, that's the point. We are on the level of practice. So we are learning to be of service. And we need to invest everything what we have to try to do our best and not disturb others, not disturb their emotions. So at any given moment of time, somehow we need to try to make our actions and words harmonious, to perform them in a way that they inspire others. We can't say something fueled by some negative emotion and then regret that. And we shouldn't be shy to ask for forgiveness. But sometimes in life, and we get used to, the fact that it's very different in material life. And in the same way, In the spiritual life, everything is always new, dynamic, and we can't say that spiritual life is all constantly auspicious, harmonious, everyone is honoring each other, hugging, flowers, petals. We need to understand that spiritual life, sometimes devotees fight, devotees argue, but it's still somehow transcendental. Even Lord himself, when he wants to enjoy some lila, you know, he sets up the stage of Kurukshetra, and it makes him happy. So everything is different all the time, but in the center, Lord should be satisfied with whatever's going on. In our case, it's the balance. It's always a question if our guru is happy with what we're doing. He can directly say that he's happy, but he can be silent. And then we can recognize if he's happy or not from some signs, subtle signs. Therefore, spiritual life and spiritual practice, it's not something boring and what repeats itself, routine. On the inner plane, devotees always working on themselves. Analysis, self-analysis, what I did wrong, what I said right, if the Lord is happy with me. And the biggest fear is how not to do something that will upset the Lord. That's the main question, that's the center. With different devotees, we need to have unique relationships. I'm not sure if I got the question right. Maybe it's a political question, but we don't want to be engaged with politics. We want to discuss service.
Харе Кришна. Нет, я думаю, Махарадж, ответ очень красивый и полный на этот вопрос. И у нас время встречи уже близко к окончанию, но у нас есть Scarlet Bloom, которая подняла виртуальную руку. Сейчас она задаст последний вопрос на сегодня. Я переведу на русский для Махараджа.
So Scarlet Bloom now is going to ask the last question for today's program. Yes, we're also running out of time. We have to go continue our journey.
Yes,
Hare
Scarlet Bloom,
Krishna, and thank you very, very much for today. I read very much, and I believe very, very strongly that Lord Krishna is the supreme controller of everything. And even himself says in Bhagavad Gita, I am forgiveness, I am forgetfulness, I am remembering. I give the remembering, I give the forgetfulness, and so on and so on. When I sit and chant, I try to do everything I can just to focus in my chanting, and I even have Bhagavad Gita in front of me, so that I have my eyes on Bhagavad Gita. Still, sometimes my mind drifts away. How do I know that is Lord Krishna as telling me, it's not your time yet. I'm going to control it. You can't control it. So that's why this time I want you to just to reach this much, not more than that. How do I know it's not that?
Ну, этот вопрос самый такой распространенный, когда человек
This question is very common. When we get serious about our spiritual practice, we face difficulties. So if we rephrase it, do we have freedom or everything is predestined. When we begin to practice seriously, often we ask this question: do we have freedom of choice, of will, or everything is predestined? And if it's predestined, why we should even try? So we're not recommended to believe so that everything is predestined, because if we're not ready, it's hard for us to digest this idea. So rather, we are recommended to take relative position, that we take this choice. For example, to drink wine or not to go to bed early or late, to chant holy names or not. It's all up to us. So based on that, we take the humble position and remember that we need to learn how to separate auspicious from inauspicious, and the rest is given by the mercy. The most important thing for us is to keep trying, to do our best, to remain in spiritual consciousness. Yes, we are limited living beings, but we need to do our best, whatever we can, to achieve relationships with God. When we are on the level kind of fragmental, we're run by our feelings, it means that we are still in this material world, but we need to keep trying, keep pushing. So there's a question: does the Lord choose, or it's us? The fact is, we're taking the choice, but the Lord knows what choice we took. So from this point of view, everything is predestined. And you know, even simply because you live this life enough and you have experience, you will see the perspective, the scenario. You will understand that the Lord is out there witnessing everything, and the certain scenario is already existing. Yes, that's true. But still, there's a space for creativity, what we can do extra for ourselves and for the Lord, because the Lord is not static. Holy scriptures say, explain what Yogamaya is. Yogamaya is the energy that is staging Lord's Leelas. When the Lord is on that level, Krishna forgets that he is the Lord. He wants to forget. He wants to be with his friends. He wants to play. He doesn't want devotees to think, oh, this is the Lord. It's all very serious. They wouldn't be able to communicate with him on that level. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains, we don't want to be thrown on Vaikuntha because they're worshipping with honor, with awe. But in Vrindavan, it's the personal relationships, and Yogamaya is in charge. So first of all, we need to understand there's two types of Maya, Yoga and Maha. The fact is, we are under the influence of Mahamaya, and it offers us some inner work, internal work, labor. That and the goal of it is transformation, spiritual practice, service. It doesn't really matter what the goal is. The main thing for us is to remain in this process. Some people glorify Gurudev, some people read the books. All of it could be important. Sleep, diet, pranayama. Mystics practice pranayama usually, but for them it's the way to establish themselves. But in service also it can be used. I'm now reading Bhagavatam, and it says how someone, he achieved the level of spiritual yoga in order to succeed in his service. It is said that Babajis, they are on a higher position. Why? Because they are always focused on the Lord. They always focused on the service. But on our level, it's not recommended to take this path because our mind is too weak and it will descend on material activities. But we need to be practically involved. It's a big, serious question and multidimensional. Periodically we speak about these things. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Да, Дандават Махарадж, спасибо, очень глубокий ответ на
Dandavat Maharaj. Thank you so much for such a deep answer and all your time. Amazing class. And we thank everyone who asked questions, who joined this program. And we want to remind you that you can watch this Zoom on our YouTube channel and all the followings, Zoom programs as well.
Бхакти Махарадж ки джай, Шри Рупанул Гуру Варга ки джай. Харе Кришна, дорогие преданные, завтра у нас тоже праздник, день, посвященный явлению нашего ачарьи.
Харе Кришна, dear devotees, tomorrow we are celebrating the festival of appearance Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaja. So we're going to celebrate it here. Our obeisances, our dandavats, we're not going to hold you and ourselves. Dandavats. See you next time in the online. Please give us your blessings for our journey. We're going to pray about all of you. Please pray about us. And in this way, we will continue this path. My dandavats to Father of Vishakha DD. It's very special. Your daughter. We were very privileged to get in touch with her. She's very advanced spiritual personality. Her preaching is very powerful. More powerful than many other men preachers. It's really hard to express our gratitude for that.
Hrishikesh Maharaj ki jai, Jai Shripat, Anandamoy Prabhu ki jai, Jai Gurudev, Jai Guru Maharaj.